Hello, and welcome to the Memory Card. Today, we're going to be talking about Star Wars Rogue Squadron on Nintendo 64, one of my favorite Star Wars games growing up on one of my favorite consoles. Rogue Squadron was the second major release of a Star Wars game on the N64, and like Shadows of the Empire that came before it, this game also had a release on the PC. Now I haven't played the PC version of Rogue Squadron, but if it controls anything like the PC release of Shadows of the Empire, I would stick with the N64 release. The PC controls of Shadows of the Empire are just dreadful, honestly. Shadows of the Empire was an early title for the N64, released in December 1996, and was a very big deal when it came out, and it made a very strong impression with its opening Hoth level, where you're controlling the snowspeeder, and it's still a blast to play to this day. I get the feeling that LucasArts got some strong fan reactions to that opening level, because Rogue Squadron, which was released in December 1998, about 2 years later, takes the foundation of that great opening level from Shadows, and improves everything about it from the gameplay all the way to the resolution if you have the expansion pack installed in your N64. Rogue Squadron was one of the first N64 games that I had as a kid, and I got at the end of the system's lifespan, and it was already into the GameCube and PS2 generation, but despite the fact that I had a PS2 at the time, and had a lot of great games on that system that I played all the time, I would still go back and play these classic N64 games, because of the great impact the system had on me when I was very young and I saw Super Mario 64 played in my daycare. Ever since then, I've had a deep nostalgia and fondness for the N64 and all the great games on it. Now, I didn't play Rogue Squadron as much as some of the other N64 games I had as a kid, because I was really bad at it, and that would really frustrate me. Regardless of that, every time I popped this game in, I would have a blast, and it would let me live out my Star Wars dreams as a kid, flying around in an X-Wing and shooting down TIE fighters, fighting for the rebellion. In Rogue Squadron, you play as Luke Skywalker, which is a great choice because he's one of the most beloved protagonists in the entire franchise. And you get to fly a lot of the classic ships from Star Wars, like I said before. You can fly on the X-Wing, you can fly A-Wings and Y-Wings and the Snowspeeder, because there is a Hoth level in this. This game also has the Naboo Starfighter as an unlockable vehicle, which I imagine helped people get even more excited for the release of Episode 1, which would come out the next year in 1999. And even if the movie isn't very good at all, which it isn't, the Starfighter itself isn't half bad and actually controls really well. Part of what makes Rogue Squadron so fun is that Factor 5 designed this game to be a bit more arcadey, rather than some of the flight sims you'd find on PC like the X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter series. And that design philosophy gives this game a great pick-up-and-play feel, which is definitely more to my taste. But that doesn't mean that this game is easy, because it definitely isn't. Even though you're given a fully voice-acted mission briefing before each level, which does a great job of getting you even more into the mood of a Star Wars adventure, the game doesn't necessarily tell you how to complete each task in order to beat a mission, and it'll likely take you more than a few tries for each mission to get the hang of it and be able to beat the mission to where you'll get a silver or gold medal. Another thing that Rogue Squadron does really well is variety, whether it comes from the different ships you can fly, or from the different planets that these missions can take place on. This game does a great job at spicing things up to prevent the game from ever really feeling stale or boring. And the different locales that these missions can take place on help to make the game feel more distinct with its missions and make them much more memorable, which adds to the overall quality of this game. The story in Rogue Squadron is not very complex, deep, or all that necessary really to enjoy the game. Because in this game, it's all about responsive controls, the fun gameplay, and immersing yourself in a Star Wars adventure in each level that you play, and making yourself feel like an ace fighter pilot in the Rebellion. And the John Williams score that's used in this game, and the great graphic style in it, add more to that immersion into the Star Wars universe, and it's something that I really like about this game. Despite how fantastic this game is and how much it deserves to be remembered as an N64 classic, and one of the best Star Wars games ever made. That does not mean this game is without its shortcomings, or minor gripes, really. While this game does control really great, I do wish these fighters were as agile as the R-Wing is in Star Fox 64. Because going from that game to this, I really do miss being able to do somersaults and U-turns with ease. And Rogue Squadron would also benefit from the kind of multiplayer game that Star Fox 64 has. That would really add to the value of this game. Although that doesn't matter quite as much nowadays because you can find the cartridge for dirt cheap. Or if you want to get the PC version, it's also about as cheap or cheaper depending on a sale. And regardless of any minor gripes I have, this game is an absolute gem, and if you've never played this before, you gotta pick it up and play it. Or at the very least, pick up Rogue Squadron 2 on the GameCube, because it's fantastic. And I'll get to that in another video.
Cable out. Let her go. Commander Skywalker,